Okay, folks, we'll be starting in 1 minute. Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Alan Turner. I'm speaking. Thank you. Now, welcome, everybody. As I said earlier on when I was introduced, I'm here to give you some money. So, well, the district money, but never mind. Who's counting? So, I'm going to be taking you through a lot of information quite quickly. Hopefully, it'll be intuitive. A few friends were here last year as well. So thank you very much. I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit about what are district grants. Each district has got different guidelines and policies on how they distribute money from the Rotary Foundation back out to the clubs. So what are those policies? How do I make sure that my club is eligible? Very important. Then how do you apply for a grant? And then once you've applied and it's approved, what happens next? So we're going to sprint through this work. Sometimes people say at the end of the thing, oh, by the way, there's going to be a quiz. There is going to be a quiz. That's not so I'm going to try and leave a few minutes because I'm going to put a QR code up on the screen to allow you to take the quiz, and that way it'll all be done and dusted for one day, for 1 year, in fact. Okay, so district grants, these are different from global grants. District grants are much smaller. Typically, a minimum of $500. There's no maximum, but a minimum of $500 for the project that you are putting together. The whole idea is it's simple, and you can be creative on how you're going to use the money. The nice thing is that all the decisions, apart from the final sign-off by TRF, the Rotary Foundation, are done here locally within your district, administered by us. This year, the district has looked at the budget, looked at the amount of money that's available, and the amount of money that we're going to get from the Rotary Foundation, and we're allocating up to a maximum of $3,000 per club for district designated funds. That's not per project. You can have multiple projects, but the total district designated funds for your club would not be more than $3,000. Now, I would also encourage you to think about bigger projects and combining with other clubs. So, for example, a few years ago, our club under the leadership, when Chuck Preto was district governor, we did a district grant for mental health projects with Vista Hill. And with 5 or 6 other clubs, we raised $22,000 as a district grant. Those clubs put their club cash in, and their club and their DDF allocated some of their DDF to the project. So I would encourage you to look at that. It's a great way for clubs to get to know each other, engage, get the club members working together. Now, very important, the district provides a website called matchinggrants.org for you to register your project and your grant application. Don't go to the Rotary International, the Rotary Foundation grants page and say, where is it? I can't find it. No, Philip Lamars, many years ago, on behalf of District 5340, created a website, And not only is that website appropriate for us as a district to use, it's made available to districts all over the world to use for their projects. So it has to be entered into matchinggrants.org. Now, you've probably heard this, but I'd love to reiterate this. Where does the money come from? It comes from you. The donations that you make now to the Rotary Foundation annual fund come back, 50% approximately of that comes back into district 3 years later. So we know now how much money Louise is going to get, and Jeb, and other for future years because of your generosity and past giving. So thank you very much. And then what happens is the money that comes back to us from Rotary Foundation, 50% of that goes to district grants, and 50% goes to global grants. So we know how much money we've got, and last year, the current Rotary year, we received $141,000 for district grants, and we funded 108 projects. Well done. Now, note, 108 projects. I don't think we have 108 clubs, do we, District Governor? No, we do not. The point here is your club can submit multiple grant applications. Some clubs, they do one, and they ask for $3,000 DDF to make that project up. Other clubs like to share the love. They like to get 4 or 5 projects, and that way they can touch on projects for different interest areas within their club. So either one is perfectly appropriate, except, remember, the paperwork. You need to do the paperwork at the end. More projects, more paperwork. But other than that, definitely encourage you to look at multiple projects within your club, but the total district designated funds for district grants is $3,000 for the next Rotary year. So what can you do? District grants, don't be misled by the name. District grants can be international. You could go down to Tijuana and help to build a house down there. You could fund computers in Guatemala for a school. Or you can obviously locally, most of the projects are local. So be creative, look for ways, backpacks, ways, even sending kids to Lead and to Ryla. You can do those kind of projects. Okay, let's talk a little bit about how to make sure that your club is eligible for doing this. So first of all, those grant applications, they have to be in matchinggrants.org and fully funded. That means the amount of money that you're asking for matches the amount of the project by August the 1st. Don't send an email on August the 2nd saying, "I'm sorry, Alan," because I'll be sending an email back saying, "I'm sorry too." So please, this is absolutely important. I don't want you to just say, "Well, it's okay." August the 1st is the deadline for completing your project and grant application. We've got a great turnout here. So at least 2 members of your club must have participated in district grant training and completed the quiz and passed the quiz with a 70% mark. Now, I am circulating, if you pass the check-in, I'm circulating a sheet for you to register the fact that you've been here, but I'm also going to be giving you some information on the quiz, on how to, you have to complete the quiz as well. You also are asked to make sure that your club has closed off past projects. Part of our due diligence is to make sure that all the reporting is completed and that so we will not be submitting you any money if you have historical projects which have not been closed off properly. What do they do? I'll tell them how to do it. I'll tell them in a minute. Now, the key one here is the money that we give out, remember, is coming to us eventually through your donations to the annual fund, the TRF annual fund. So it's imperative that your club has given an average of $50 per member to the annual fund of the Rotary Foundation. You'll hear later from Janice about global grants, and in that case, because of the bigger dollar amount, the average is $100. But for district grants, to be eligible for you to receive district grants, the average must be at least $50, an average per member. Now, please, again, make sure that your club meets that criteria before the end of the Rotary year. July, adding some extra money doesn't cut it because we don't get the reports. That's the next Rotary year. So please make sure. How do I find out? Check with your club president. The club president will be receiving regular updates on this to know that you're eligible. And at the end of this, I'll be giving you my email address as well. I'm happy to help you if you're not too sure. So be current on all the district and global grant reporting. Please make sure your club is current on your dues. Enter your club should be entering your giving goals into Rotary Club Central. So again, that's a task for your club president. So you'll be hearing that, your club presidents will be hearing from Louise on how to do that. And if your project is involving youth, then make sure your members who are participating in that are up to speed on the district youth protection policy. So, you've submitted your grant application. You've done all, your club is eligible, and you've done all your good due diligence before August the 1st. Remember, the Rotary dues, the Rotary annual fund dues need to be within the Rotary year, so that's actually by end of June. Then our district foundation get together, we look at the information and decide. Typically, those projects are awarded. Sometimes they're awarded conditional because we need to see some other information from you. And we want to make sure that your project has been signed off by you and your club president. You'll see that in the user interface on how to do that. By the way, I talked about making sure your projects for the current Rotary year are signed off. So the reports are completed by now, by the end of March. And as I look around the room, some of you have not done that yet. So we need your current year projects to be signed off. Or sometimes people say, I'm just about there. We're doing the awards next month. Can I have a little bit of time? Yes. Either send me an email or enter it as a history log item into your report so we know that you're on board. So how do you submit a project? Matchinggrants.org, district grants. This might be your first time going there. Doesn't matter, because you'll be automatically allocated a password. And up at center, submit a project. Okay, so now you get this form, and I thought I'd change the Rotary year, but never mind, we'll come back to that in a moment. And make sure the Rotary year that you want the money for is entered correctly. Do not follow this screen. Go to 25, 26. Because unless you enter that correctly, it doesn't come on our radar for approval. remember, we get over 100 applications. So don't let yours fall through the crack by some simple errors. Area of focus, of course, you're all very familiar with that. And then just enter a brief project summary title. Why that's useful to have that as an informative title is sometimes you may be inviting other clubs to participate. Sometimes clubs look for projects that they can work on. So 5 computers to an elementary school in Ecuador, or backpacks for undernourished families. And then the project description gives more detail about that. Sometimes I've seen applications where they're saying, we're going to be working with this great nonprofit called Rotary, and here's 3 pages of text about Rotary. And you don't tell me anything about the project that you're working on. So please, 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 describe the project, describe how you're going to spend the money, and remember, this is just local. This isn't a global grant you're applying for. This is just 1 page. So it's nice and easy, and it's amongst us. The people in this room are signing off on these. So please, keep it simple. I talked about keeping it, the nice thing always is who's benefiting. It's fairly obvious if it's elementary school kids, but sometimes we're doing some work on a walkway, on an environmental project. Okay, why? What's it for? Why are you doing this? So trying to help us out a little bit about that. We talked about this, how you... again, this isn't so much like a global grant where you need to do a separate document on needs assessment, but it is useful to take those Rotary guidelines and say, why are you doing? How do you know you're needed to do this? So it's just a simple saying, yes, the current walkway is impassable. We need to buy some benches or materials for it. So tell us about it. Now, the timeline. Remember I asked you to submit your final reports around about April, in this case, April of 2026. That means your project needs to have spent the money by that time. Please don't think about a project saying, oh, we're going to fund some scholarships, and we'll know about that in September of next year. Your project should be sized that you can complete the spending and submit your reports within the appropriate Rotary year, ideally before April. So put your Rotary Club in, that's fairly straightforward. Now, the key thing here is total budget. Now, the total let's take the total budget as $6,000. And you're going to be doing this in conjunction with another agency that's going to contribute some money. So you're going to ask for $1,000 of club cash, $1,000 of DDF. By the way, the amount of DDF we give is no more than a 1-to-1 match on your club cash. And say $4,000 from this friendly organization as well. So that's a $6,000. But you're going to just enter here $1,000 from club cash, club contribution, and $1,000 from district. And later on, you'll see in the application how to enter the other $4,000 from other organizations. But most of the projects we have are within one club cash, 100% match. Or you may say, no, I want to only take, I'm going to put $1,000 of club cash in, but I'm using my DDF for other projects. I only want to ask for $500. Perfectly appropriate. Maximum is a 1-to-1 match. It does say here, who do I make the checks payable to? That's because, remember, this system is used by multiple districts throughout the world. In our case, we actually send it not by check, but by bank deposit. I'll tell you how to do that in a moment. Now, the project contact person. Please don't say, oh, secretary, can you do this for me? I'm useless at filling in forms. We would like the person who's going to be living the project and closing off the project to be the contact person, because we may have some questions for them. Ideally, that person is going to be, with foresight, is going to be there to see the project close by the end of the year. And we talked about making the project budget total should include the club contribution and the DDF. Now, how do I actually, where do we send the money? On the district foundation, the district website under foundation/grants, you'll find a bank transfer form. So this is asking you to get your treasurer to fill this form in. And if you filled it in last year, please get another one this year. Unfortunately, clubs have had to open up new accounts, or you may say, I want the money to go to my foundation instead of the club account. Please fill this form in for the projects you're submitting this year. Now, this is highly confidential information. We don't want this information out on the public internet. So when you add the document, when you fill it in and add it, I'll be showing you how to add that as an encrypted, restricted document. So we're going to be sending the money directly to the clubs after all the approval steps have been completed. Sometimes people say, oh, I'm going to be working with this nonprofit in Mexico. Can you send the money to them? No, we send it to you, your club. Your club is responsible for the distribution of that money. We talked about that. Okay, so you need to upload the document as a restricted access document. What that does is, here's the way of adding documents. You go into your project, you'll see the center tab is Documents. And you, by the way, please add them as PDF format. JPEGs don't work, unfortunately. So if you have a JPEG image or something, just convert it to PDF and attach that. And then click on that restricted access button. Please, please, please do that. We do not want your bank information scattered around the world. And if we see that, quite frankly, what we'll do is we'll delete it as soon as we see it and push the project back to you again. By the way, I'm going to be talking later about adding receipts. Sometimes people add canceled checks. Well, actually, that's a bit old-fashioned. You don't get canceled checks anymore. Images of checks sent. So that's OK, but make sure you add those as restricted documents. By the way, use restricted documents for everything if you want to. It doesn't matter. There's no burden. There's no penalty associated with that. OK, you've submitted the grant. And now, remember, it's fully funded. You've got pledges for everything. We haven't approved it yet, by the way. You're still in the stage of submitting it. And then once you've submitted it, it will reach a status. It'll come back to me, and I'll make that available to the District Foundation Committee. So we'll look at that after the deadline of August the 1st. So during your steps, you'll get confirmation emails automatically throughout the process. But once we, the District Foundation, have reviewed your applications, then we send that off to the Rotary Foundation. That's a question in the quiz. The project is not approved yet. We have to get approval from the Rotary Foundation. Now, the kind of thing that they're looking for, I had one last year whereby a project was wanting to do a pilot study for a nursing program in Africa. It was great, and they wanted to put $2,000 or $3,000 aside to do the initial assessment before they put a global grant in. Perfectly good. The problem was they were going to send one of their members out to that country in Africa to do the research, and that country was on a restricted list by the Rotary International. So unfortunately, they had to change the scope of the project so they could send money for someone out there to do the work. Rotary International was not going to pay for people to go into harm's way. That's an unusual situation, but it happens. The other one that you have to be careful of, if you're funding a project in India, the Indian government requires that donations have to be going to an approved agency in India, and they have I can't remember what the number is, there's an acronym for it, but that has to be, we have to have that number for the approval. I'm giving you some examples of why Rotary Foundation may not automatically approve your project. So do not assume that anything has been approved until we tell you that the Rotary Foundation has approved it. And that takes about 4 to 5 weeks after we submit it. Then the money comes to us from the Rotary Foundation, and only then can our district treasurer send the money out to the clubs that have entered details about their bank account. I get emails from people saying, "Hey, Alan, I thought we were approved. Where's the money?" Well, you haven't told us which bank account you want us to send it to. Oh, okay. How do I do that? Okay, so that happens. So please, we'll try. We're Rotarians. We're amongst friends. Here to help you. We want you to succeed. So I'll be leaving my email address and my business card out here, so please work with me on this. Okay. Do not spend the money until the money's in your bank account. Now, I have had the situation where some people have said, "Oh, Alan, we really need to do this. We need to send someone to do this work in September." That is at your risk. Okay? So I'll tell you that. But as I say, typically, if by the time we get to this stage, we know that things are going in the right direction, and we recognize the ones that TRF will approve, and other ones where we need some more work. Now, you're in the project. Please save proof that you act. One of the things about Rotary is the very high pedigree of reputation that we have on philanthropy and on the funds that we spend. That is done by you providing details of how you spent the money. Now, the easiest ones is receipts for those backpacks that you put together as a club, or a nice letter of thank you from that non-profit. Those are the easy ones. Oh, they're not very easy to talk to. I don't get that kind of information very easily. Okay, sometimes it's quite reasonable for you to send a copy of the check that you filled in to say, this is what the check we sent off for this agency. And we're working on getting some more, but please will this do just now. Remember, if you add that copy of that check, you're going to put it in as a restricted document. Please, please, please. Sometimes, for example, I'm getting one or two in the history log. The project scope has changed. The agency that we were going to work with in Mexico is no longer available. Can we change to a different, similar scope? And we've identified and verified this other agency. Enter some information like that into the history log, and then I'll give you some advice as to, that's probably not going to pass Rotary Foundation muster, or typically say, yeah, that's okay. I'll share with you how to create a project addendum for the project description. Or you might say, hey, Alan, we're just about at the end of the project. We'll get final sign-off in April 15th. Can we submit it towards the end of April? Yeah, let us know, because some of the projects which are later, we sometimes need to get Rotary Foundation to notify to them that the reports are late. So use the log here. Use it for information you want to log. Other information where you want advice and guidance, please feel free to send me an email. So you've now completed the project. All the receipts have been uploaded. Well done. Then on your administrator, you go in and you go to the description tab, and there's a button there called Final Report. And the final report comes up, and you get a load of fields to fill in. The nice thing here is a lot of the content of this is already in your project's description. So you can just copy and paste how you're going to spend the money. And this, you can do minor modifications. It doesn't have to be a copy. Just describe it in real terms about what you did, how the beneficiaries enjoyed it, who were the beneficiaries. That's always nice to see. And then financially, the money you received and the income side is usually very easy. Please have some details about the money that's sent out. I don't want you to tell me in the expenditure you received money from District 5340. That's in the income side. On the expenditure side, say, we sent a check to this agency in Solana Beach, and this is how much it was. Or these are the 5 different organizations we purchase materials from. Please make sure that the project expenditures equal or exceed the income. Again, Rotary's got this reputation for looking after this kind of detail. So please help us out there. Okay. Make sure it's balanced. Oh, sometimes things change. The project that you were thinking of doing disappeared, the organization you're going to be working with disappeared, or you had to reduce the scope of your project. So that's okay. So say, for example, the whole project was $3,000 and you're only spending $2,000. Get in touch with us. What we ask that you do is you send back the unused DDF. So if, in my example, if it was $1,500 cash, $1,500 DDF match, but you only used $1,000 of that DDF, we ask you to send back that $500 back to the district. It's quite straightforward. It's not the end of the world, and it just balances the books. And by the way, if you know about that kind of thing, let us know as early as possible, because the district governor then has got some funds that they may have some projects or that the district governor would love to fund. So please let us know. Oh, Alan, I can't do this. I know it's January. It's okay. The district governor has lots of requests for extra money, so Louise will find a way to spend it. So let us know, please. And then we'll give. The best thing to do there, by the way, is just email me, and I'll give you further instructions on what the address is, where to send it. And you won't be able to read this, but on the district website, District 5340 website, under Foundation tab, on the left-hand side, you've got global grants and district grants. Scroll down. I'm going to be putting the training materials that I've shown you here today as a PDF on there. So you don't need to take all those pictures. No, seriously. And also, there's going to be a quiz on there. Now, I'm going to be taking you to a QR code for the quiz in a moment. I've deliberately timed this so to give you 5 or 10 minutes in my allotted time for you to do the quiz here and now. But first, so the Rotary calls to action. 2 members of your club should participate in training and pass, not just take the quiz, but pass the quiz with a 70% mark. The good news is, after you take the quiz, you get the results back, and you get the right and the wrong answers. And then you can, if you want to, you can take the quiz again. There's no shaming in this. We want you to succeed, and that reiteration. But I'll be honest with you, some of the questions are a little bit ambiguous. I need to go back and spend some time making them. So don't worry about it. the key thing is that you get the essentials of what we're doing. Make sure your club's got your final reports in for the current year. Ensure that your club has got that $50 per capita into the annual fund. Remember, that has to be completed before the end of the current Rotary year. July the 1st is too late. 31st of June. Ideally, I'd recommend you to put it in towards the end of May, because Rotary takes time to process this kind of thing as far as your fund giving. Please ask your president. Louise will be training your club president, your current president-elect, to enter your giving goals. We want to see what your club is wanting to contribute to annual fund, Polio Plus. This is your president. We need to see that. Here's my contact details. I'm going to be leaving some business cards on the table at the front here. We're all, as Louis said this morning, we're family. I'll help my family to be successful on this. At this time of the year, when the projects are coming in, I get probably 100 emails a day on the subject. I reply to 3 of them, but never mind. No, I'm more than happy to help you. Some of this stuff is not quite straightforward, or things change. So, one second. So please feel free to contact me, and I'm more than happy to help you, and we'll make sure you're a success at doing district grants. So here is your quiz, and I'll take questions while this is up. I'll leave this up on the screen for 10 minutes. Yes, Matt. Okay, where is the sign-up sheet? They're still working on it. We'll make sure it's at the front here for those people who don't get it. Over here. Yes, my lady. Oh. So the question is, are there any types of projects which are non-eligible? Your local political action committee would probably not be a good destination for the money. These are projects which meet the Rotary areas of focus. The nice thing about district grants is we can be somewhat more flexible than we can for global grants. So if you've got something which you're not too sure about, that's what my email address is for. I'm more than happy. Send a description of the project, why you maybe have some doubts about it. But please make sure that if you're working with another organization, you are responsible for the performance of that other organization. So please do your due diligence. Yes, ma'am.
Where will I find out if our current district grants from our club are?
Okay, so the question here is, how do you find out whether your current district grants have been closed out? Well, if you go into matching grants, you can do the current Rotary year, and then you can sort by club, and you can see all the projects, and you can see, have they been completed, or are they still at the paid status, and that means that they have not had the projects put in, and the project contact in your club will be identified. And that person and your club president will be getting some nasty grounds very shortly to encourage them to sign off. Okay, so as I said, some of these questions in the quiz are a little bit ambiguous. I apologize in advance for that. Please be aware that you can do this quiz as many times as you feel, and I can see there's some nice collaboration going on. That's a new one. That's good. But please, if you have to do it a few times, that just means it reinforces the subject matter material. Did I see a question at the back there? I can't hear you, sorry.
This year, I know in the past, Rotary clubs have had to go through their sponsored Rotary club event. Do you have to do it again this year?
Okay, thank you. I meant to talk about that. I think the question related to Rotaract clubs. Okay, so Rotaract clubs, we'd love to have Rotaract clubs submitting project grants. Unfortunately, the website that we have is purely a limitation of our own technology. You can't, as a Rotaract club, submit a project, but please ask your sponsoring club to do that, and make a note in the description that this is for the Rotaract clubs. The other thing about that is we definitely want to encourage Rotaract clubs to submit projects, so much so that we relax some of the annual fund giving requirements for those Rotaract clubs. So yes, thank you. I'm delighted that you raised that question. Do we have any other questions? So can you say that again?
Question 4.
You did not address it. We did?
What was the question?
Is it 5,000 that your club is at?
No. I think the question is, I can't remember what question 4 is, but I think the question was, what's the per capita giving, or some of the big clubs put in a total amount, so that's $5,000. But the per capita giving is an average of more than $50 per $50. Last year, unfortunately, I had the sad situation where I was not able to fund 2 projects because things had slipped through the cracks and they weren't up to scratch on that. I have a question.
Yeah, we've applied for a district grant. I have another club that wants to participate in the project. And so when I go to the site, it's all about filling in for my portion of it. So it looks like that the other club has to kind of do the same thing on their own, and there's no coordination between the two of them.
Okay, so thank you for that, because I didn't have time to go through all of the whole user interface. When you enter your project total to start with, say it's project total of $5,000, but your club is only with DDF and contribution putting half of that in. Another club is going the other half. You just enter what your club is going to do, and then send the link to the other club, and they can go in and contribute to your project. That's how my club did that, 5 or 6 clubs. I just sent the link to them and say, please will you pledge money and your DDF to this project. So you just send them the project link and they'll fill it in. Well, no, for us, that DDF, as long as they get that DDF to your club, that's your problem. We don't collect, the district doesn't collect their DDF, you do. Okay? Yes. Okay, I didn't hear all the question, but the maximum amount of district designated funds for district grants per club per year for this next year is $3,000. Okay, the maximum amount for a project is $10 million. If you can find another 9 million, whatever, that's up to you. So there's no upper limit. We loved having that multiple clubs participating, so there's no upper limit on the project amounts that your project can do. The only limit is on the available funds to your club from district. Good ones. Okay, folks, I'm going to stay up here at the front. I'm going to answer any questions. I'm going to make my business cards available to you. And make sure you fill in, or I'll take your questions. Well, we've got a couple of minutes. Yes, sir. I think you're going back to the limitation side. No, it's not like a Rotary whereby if you want to build a hospital, they don't like that in a global grant. If you want to go down and do some work to improve a project, improve a community center, it's absolutely good. You had a question? Okay, so the question here was about timing. So first of all, you can enter projects for the next Rotary year today, if you wanted to, and they have to be entered and fully funded by August the 1st. You will not hear back whether that money has been approved until approximately October. We're in the hands of the Rotary Foundation, so we don't know for a fact. And and then you have to spend that money between that time and typically April of the following year. So there's a time. These are deliberately for compact, smaller projects. Folks, make sure you sign up on the sheet. Where's the sign-up sheet, please? Can someone wave it at me at the back there? Oh, so that's okay. When you finish with it, can you bring it up to the front table for people to fill in? Ladies and gentlemen, Rotarians, Rotaractors, Interactors, thank you for participating. And as I say, don't hesitate to reach out to me if I can be of help.